Hey guys, welcome back. Woodworking here. Today I'm doing another gameplay breakdown and another Phinn gameplay breakdown. This is another viewer submission that someone sent to me, so I try not to do the same hero back to back, but I really like doing viewer submitted gameplay breakdowns, so this is what I got. And the mistakes that this player does and the things he does well are completely different than the Phinn player in the last video. So there's still a lot to get out of it. Even if you watch the last one, I could probably make a dozen of these in a row and you'd still get something out of it every time. I know I did by watching it. So let's get right into this. I didn't really see if this was a draft or a blind pick. This player is tier 6, so it could have really gone either way. I don't know if he's full party either. He's obviously with at least one of his guildmates, but I don't know if that third member is on his team or not. Let's talk about synergy and things he should be looking for. So, obviously with Phinn, you want to be pulling Ringo in this comp, right? Because, you know, if it works for you, you can pull the whole team, but generally when you're playing Phinn, you want to pull just one hero. So in this case, because Jewel can jump away, and because Lance both is the roam and he also has an escape as well, Ringo's the prime target because he doesn't have a ability that allows him to escape from being pulled. And then as far as Rhyme goes, you know, you want to be chaining your CC together. So maybe this is pretty obvious to some of you, but Phinn and Rhyme synergize really well together because Rhyme's Winter Spire, or whatever his A is called, I forget, but it triggers really slowly, so people generally run away from it. So if you can either stun someone so that he can get his A down, or use your B, your polite company, to pull them back into it as they're trying to escape, it can be really effective, especially in the early game. So as the Phinn player, if I was the Phinn player in this game going into it, that's what I'd be looking for. Talking about Phinn's build really quickly, I'm perfectly fine with him buying boots and Iron Guard contract. That's probably what I would do with Phinn. And the flare's cool. The only thing I don't like is, specifically with Rhyme as Phinn, I prefer to upgrade my polite company first rather than Quibble. For the reasons that I already said when I said what I was going to be looking for as Phinn. Rhyme does a ton of level 1 damage, and being able to give him fortified health and pull people back into his Winter Spire is going to be huge. So, you know, it's habit for most Phinn players to upgrade the Quibble first, but in this specific case, with Rhyme especially, I think Polite Company would have been a better choice. I think Phinn and Rhyme actually could have won that fight, especially because Rhyme had just taken the heal buff from the Elder Treant. Phinn didn't really position well there. I think he thought they were going to keep running away. I don't know. But if they would have turned, if Phinn and Rhyme would have turned the moment they walked into the tri-bush and the enemy team lost sight of them, they would have won that fight for sure. Because Phinn could have quibbled and Rhyme could have dropped a Spire and the other team would have walked right into it. And then they would have had the upper advantage. And early game like this, you can just focus whoever's weaker. So, you know, if that Winter Spire hits on both the enemy team, that's fine. Just whoever takes more damage or whoever sticks around, if one starts running away, just focus that person. Sorry about the lag. Like I said, this isn't a video I recorded. Somebody submitted this to me, but you know what? We all deal with the lag occasionally, so it's a good thing to see that other people are dealing with it too. It's refreshing sometimes to know that other people are suffering too, I think. First bigger critical thing I would say is Phinn's just been wandering around with Rhyme. After that first rotation, when Vox and Ringo traded early game with each other, deaths, after Phinn took the first jungle rotation, He could have gone and got the Elder Treant, but then he should have gone straight to lane afterwards. Generally, your default position should be up in the lane with your laner, unless you're purposely going down to get like a tad of, ambient gold or ambient experience. It helps your jungler level up faster, which is something you want to happen. And then you're also getting more gold in the lane, so it's better all around. Vox is going to have trouble against Ringo, especially early game, because Ringo outranges him. So it'd be nice if Phinn was up there helping him out. Let me go ahead and take this opportunity to talk about energy conservation. This is a recurring theme that comes up in most, I would say, below tier 8 players play on almost all roams, really. They tend to spam abilities, and you'll hear me talking about this over and over and over again. So you're going to see this Phinn player run out of energy throughout this game, and even though Quibble uses more energy than Polite Company, usually when you're using Quibble, it's to try to slow somebody, try to put damage down on a carry, so it's pretty useful. What you need to be careful with is your Polite Company usage, because if you just use it the first time your laner takes damage every time, there may not be any follow-up damage coming. Like, if he takes damage and then you use it and then he doesn't take any more damage, you just wasted that 30 energy that it cost to use it, and he got nothing out of it. So use it when you see potential damage coming, or when you're trying to use the crowd control side of it, not just whenever your laner takes damage. Because when you get into a fight and your energy is already low because you've been spamming the hell out of Polite Company, that's why you're out of energy. It's because you've been using your Polite Company errantly. And that's what I noticed when I play Phinn. I do the same thing sometimes. Like I've said in the past, you get bored, you want to use an ability, you want to help, you don't just want to stand there like you're not even playing, so you'll use an ability, but it really costs you in these team fights, and you're going to see it happen here, and I talk about this every time I do gameplay analysis of a lower tier player, whether it's Catherine, Arden, Phinn, anybody. And even Lance. I think I talked about Githian wall usage with one of the guys I did one on, or maybe it was even me playing. So just something to throw in your toolbox. Be more conservative with your ability usage. So he was trying to chase Ringo off here, and he actually ends up kind of out of position. Like, he should be frontlining for his team. Rhyme should come up behind him. There was a really good, to his credit, it was a really good fountain usage. He anticipated the damage from Jules' big red button and was able to fountain ahead of it. Otherwise, Ryan would have died for sure. So he did good there. But he should have been further down in front of his team, or at least on the same plane as his team. And he wasn't. So he wasn't able to do what Phinn does best, which is, get in the way and disrupt the enemy team. One other thing I want to point out is that he checked builds about a minute ago, and there's nothing wrong with that. I want him to check builds, but he doesn't. I think, if I remember correctly, that's the only time he checked the builds of his team, everybody. The only time he checked the build screen the entire game was that moment, like 6 minutes into the game. And Jewel hadn't shopped yet. At least not that they had seen, and all he saw was that Jewel had a weapon blade. So you don't really know what she's going. She could still go CP from there, especially because she's jungling. She may just buy the weapon blade for help jungle clearing. So this whole game, until I got to the end of it, I had no idea what the enemy team was building. So when I watched this the first time before I started doing this video, there was like some things I didn't even know. Like, should I be critiquing? Is he doing things right? I didn't know. There you can see the first time he pulled Jewel. Ringo is dead, so I'm not going to really fault him for it. Like, the idea was right, but that's why you don't pull Jewel, because you saw what happened. Even though she was low, she jumped away, and his team, the way Rhyme's damage comes out slowly, and Vox having to be really close, it's not made to take advantage of Phinn pulling a Jewel that can just jump away. And that's why at the beginning of this video I said he should be looking to pull Ringo. And because his cooldown's long, he should have just held on to that pull. Now, another thing here, you saw on the screen that Vox died there. We don't know what happened. I don't really fault Phinn for trying to take a jungle rotation after they almost killed Jewel. But the moment he saw that Vox had died, he should have gone to lane. And there he just completely missed a Fountain. Fountain was up, ready to go. He should have Fountain Vox the moment he got there and saw, or not Vox, Rhyme, the moment he got there and saw that Rhyme was low, but he didn't. Oh well. He has it to use there. I mean, not that I think it's a good idea to save it. Once again, pull on Jewel does nothing. I talked to this guy. I told him, there's some issues with your forced accord target selection, and I explained to him why I said that. Because I know for a lot of players, lower tier players, and when I say lower tier, don't take that offensively. Everybody that's a higher tier than you has been that lower tier. So we don't, if anybody says it, we don't mean it offensively. We were there too. You have to, take your licks down there to get here. But anyways, what I was saying is, I think some lower tier players, and I don't know if this applies to this guy, but they think if their pull lands on somebody and they pull that person towards them, that was a successful pull. And just like every ability, it's not just about whether it lands on somebody. It's about if you used it at the right time, if you waited to use it when maybe it wouldn't be most effective. All these things play into it. It's not just about if it lands on a hero every time you use it. Like, obviously that's the goal if you're going to use it. Oh man, look, he just checked builds again. I guess I was wrong. So he's checked builds twice. It's still not enough. I mean, he should be checking builds like once a minute, especially just sitting here in lane. There's nothing else he should be doing. But so having checked the builds, you now see that Jewel's going weapon power as well. So my question is, why the Crucible second? My guess is that's how he builds every single game, no matter what. On Phinn, he always goes Crucible second. I don't know, maybe he likes having the move as a save. And I'm going to pause that thought here because I want to talk about this fight. Alright, he has Fountain up, and he tried to use Crucible a little too early so it didn't hit Vox. And he also had Pull up. So what he should have done is used Forced Accord on Vox and on all the enemy heroes chasing Vox, and then when Vox got close, used Fountain. But he didn't do that, and Vox died when he probably didn't need to. I'm just trying to teach you guys how to, pull doesn't always need to be an offensive move. And in fact, the best way to use it in some cases, especially as you start facing better and better opponents, is defensively, like he could have used it there. Because it's much harder for the enemy team to block when you use it defensively, because they're not expecting it to come out then. They're expecting it to come out to start a fight when they see you posturing. So let's actually watch. I'm going to pause the video here, play that part again, and you'll see what I was talking about, where I wanted him to pull and use Fountain when Vox got close. So here's that clip again in slow motion. He should pull right now. Both those members on Vox get pulled away. They can't do damage to him. And then, bam, he should Fountain right there because Lance wouldn't even be there in that case. And then Vox gets the maximum benefit out of Fountain because he's got basically no health. And the lower your health is, the more Fountain does for you. And instead, you can see now that we go back to the regular game, their team is now way behind because he didn't do everything he could have done for his team there. And I'm not saying he's the only one making mistakes, but keep in mind, we're doing a gameplay breakdown on this player. So everything we're talking about, unless I want to give you like a random tidbit about somebody else, is focused on what this Phinn player could do better. And you should be taking away from it, oh, okay, if I see that same situation happen, I can do that in my game too. I don't know if any of you play chess, but it's the same way in chess. The way you get better at chess is you see more positions that come up, and then you know the next time you get into that position yourself that you can do such and such moves 3 ahead that will get you to a superior position. And it's the same way in Vainglory. If you see all 3 enemy heroes on your teammate that's overextended, you can pull them away from him and then regroup. That's where Finn's strongest, doing things like that, disrupting the enemy team. So Rhyme just died while Phinn had Crucible, which he shouldn't even have Crucible yet, but he did have Crucible, and Fountain up and ready to go, and he didn't use either, and Rhyme died. I've said it before, that's the worst feeling as a roam, for me anyway. If I don't use anything in my kit to save somebody's life before they die, that's the biggest failure I can have happen. So I'm not berating him for it, but that was a pretty bad error on his part. Obviously, most people would know that. I don't know what he was looking at. I think maybe he was trying to land a quibble on somebody instead of seeing how much Rhyme was getting focused, but he probably should have seen that coming. And if you see it late, remember, Crucible first, because he gets the health barrier from the reflex block part of Crucible, and then Fountain. He's going to go down here and shop. Would have been a great time to check builds. He doesn't. He buys Journey Boots instead of War Treads, or instead of saving up for War Treads or Atlas. Both would have been better choices. I know you've seen some pro players build Journey Boots. At this level, you should be using War Treads. You're not really a playmaker at this skill tier. Buy War Treads. That's what you should be doing. Okay, Finn's kind of a little far forward above his team here. Rhyme still hasn't joined the fight, and once he does join the fight, Finn's still trying to force things here, and his health's already low. If we pause here for a quick second and take a look at the lay of the land. The whole enemy team is at or around half health. Phinn is at half health. Rhyme is out of position in the back line of his team, which he shouldn't be. And Vox is a little too far forward trying to chase these people. So what Phinn should do here is stop and pull the enemy team. Because by that point, right, Rhyme will catch up. So if Phinn pulls and then follows it up with a quibble, it turns the fight in their favor. But what he does do is keep walking forward, keeps getting kited by Ringo, who's doing damage to him, and then he has to use Fountain and Crucible on himself, and he doesn't have it for Vox. So just something to take away from this. If you see this position come up in one of your later games, think about that. Think about your health. You can only frontline for so long when your team isn't able to keep up with the enemy team while kiting. So you need to do something differently. Otherwise, you're just, head-firsting into death, and you don't. It's really a bad habit to be using Crucible and Fountain on yourself. Somehow here, Ringo forgets how to kite, even though he was kiting the hell out of Phinn, and doesn't attack Rhyme, and Rhyme kills him. That should have never happened. But I guess good play give props to Rhyme for getting a kill there, which he shouldn't have gotten. Alright, let's talk about builds again. Phinn just upgraded his chronograph into a contraption. And I got kind of sidetracked on some other topics that I wanted to fully explain. So I didn't really point out some of the problems this Phinn player's had with vision. Now, if you go back and watch the video again, not that I expect you to, but if you do, you'll see that this Phinn player doesn't shop very often. And when he does, he either buys a full set of flares or he buys no vision at all. And I've talked about in my vision how and when to use vision video that you can't just use flares or mines. You have to do both. So obviously he hasn't watched that video or hasn't put it into practice yet. But you know, I like contraption on Phinn. It's nice to have the cooldown, but he should have had Atlas here. The enemy team is double weapon power. He needs to try to be landing Atlas because there's no, at least I assume there's no Atlas on this team. I can't see the build, so who really knows? But that's what his team needs from him, not cooldown and some mines, because he could have bought those mines plenty of times. That fight was kind of weird. Vox was at the shop for a really long time. I don't know if he went AFK or had a lag spike. But Phinn and Rhyme came up to lane without him, and then Ringo found Vox down there and 1v1'd him. Whether Vox was actually in the game or not, I don't know. But the Vox player's making some definitely questionable moves. And then the rest of the team found Phinn and Rhyme, and then they just came and cleaned them up. So I'm not really going to fault him for anything that happened in that fight, other than at this point in the game, your team should pretty much be staying together at all times. So, you know, if the Vox player goes AFK and it's going to lead to you guys losing a fight, you know, you can ditch him, but they should have been around him. I didn't see on the screen that he was AFK, so I'm sure they didn't either. And that somehow Rhyme was 1v3ing before Vox and Phinn showed up right there. So kudos to Rhyme for making these ridiculous plays that he shouldn't be. And it's going to save this game for them, because this probably could have been easily a winning Kraken push if Rhyme hadn't done that. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward because this video is already getting pretty long. So he finally gets Atlas. We'll see if he can actually land it. I know I struggle with Phinn as trying to land Atlas. You're big and slower than most people, so you know it's easy to see you walking up to them to try to land it. So at this point in the game, what his team should be doing is looking for that pull on Ringo. None of his pulls have been blocked yet, so that's what they should be looking for. I'm assuming that's what his teammates are looking for. I like that he's placing forward vision here, but all this posturing, at least for the A-side team, our team, should just be looking for a pull on Ringo. And Rhyme gets a little impatient and uses his ult. Finally lands the pull on Ringo, but nobody follows up, and he doesn't use his quibble. He's going to keep pressing the action, which is good right now, right? They did good. They got the enemy team to half health, and then for some reason they got scared of the Crystal Miner. The Crystal Miner isn't everything, guys. If you still have all your abilities up, your whole team's full health, and the enemy team, really good job there by him. Nice turnaround. Probably the best thing he's done the whole game, so I want to give him props for that. Pause that thought for a minute. But yeah, anyways, they could have continued that fight right into the Crystal Miner. I mean, the pull looked cool, but it didn't really do much. They were going to kill Lance either way there, and it would have been nice if his team could have followed up on the one he used earlier. So I'm not saying that was a bad pull, but he doesn't get extra credit for doing something good with that specific pull. I think he actually did Atlas Ringo right before they killed him. So like I said, that was probably the best thing he's done the whole game. And they turn around a game that they were losing and had been losing really bad at, to be honest. We'll give this thing another fast forward here. He's going to sell his flares and buy a light shield. Why? there's no reason for it. Really nice pull there. Ended up grabbing Jewel and Ringo. Ringo escapes, but that's okay. They get Jewel, so that's going to lead to an easy victory for them towards the end of this Kraken push. So great job by him there at the end to secure the victory. Yeah, once again, talking about that light shield, I don't understand. Like, if you want it for fortified health, armor is a better choice because armor gives you more fortified health for the money than shield does. But even a better choice for the money is a Dragon Heart. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It was the winning game push, but I'm just going to throw that out there. So I'll go ahead and give you the notes I gave this guy really quick when I reviewed the video. So I told him a lot of the things we talked about. You didn't check the builds hardly at all, and you didn't counter build when you did check them. You buy vision and bursts, and you end up not having vision a lot because of it. You also missed an opportunity to buy a couple mines here and there. Your pull target selection needs work. The main target that game should have been Ringo, and I think you only pulled him once. I think it was actually twice, but nonetheless. And you also missed a couple opportunities to do defensive pulls. That's what I was talking about when they were chasing one of his heroes and he didn't pull them off of them. You use your B way too often, and as a result, you run out of energy quite frequently. Fountains were mostly good, but when they were bad, you just didn't use them at all. Why Crucible second item? We talked about all these things, so I was pointing them out as we went through them, but just in conclusion, those are the things. Anyway, guys, this video went really long. Apologies for that, but that's going to do it for me today. If you have gameplay of any type, it doesn't even have to be Rome, I'll say, as long as you're lower tier, that you want me to review, upload it to a Google Drive. That's a free program. Upload it to a Google Drive, send me the link on Twitter, and I'll give it a look. The only thing I ask is that you let me make a video out of it if it's something I feel like people can learn from, which most things are. But this is something I'd like to do a lot more of going forward. I think you guys are going to get a lot out of it. It's nice to see different mistakes that people are making at lower tiers that maybe I don't make. So that's why I like doing the gameplay breakdowns, not just of my gameplay. So, like I said, guys, that's going to do it for me. Thanks for stopping by. I really do hope you learned something, and I'll see you on the Fold.